could I be attracted to the person and not the gender? And I did find that I could be attracted.
Tears welled up in the eyes of the music industry as iconic producer Clive Davis delivered a devastating statement regarding soul great Angie Stone. As Davis recounted personal anecdotes, situations that defined his career, and a shocking discovery, the once boring news conference took a dramatic turn. Journalists became silent, and fans couldn't contain their excitement. I don't understand how this normally composed music magnate could go off stage like that. How could Angie Stone have elicited such intense feelings? Keep an eye out, we're disassembling everything.
One of the things that Clive Davis and Peter Edge wanted to do was say, okay, look, we don't want to date you. I'm like, I'm still young, what are you talking about? Well, we don't want to talk about all that stuff at Sugar Hill, so they kind of gag ordered me not to talk about.
So they wanted to be just a brand new artist coming out.
Right.
Tragedy befell a lengthy section of Interstate 65 close to Montgomery, Alabama on a sunny Saturday morning, March 1, 2025. Although the atmosphere was still charged with the lively energy of Mardi Gras festivities, the joyous mood was abruptly dashed for the famed soul singer Stone and her band in an instant. In Mobile, Alabama, Stone, who was 63 years old, had recently finished a thrilling and forceful performance. She had reminded everyone of her status as a musical icon the night before, with a performance that was full of song, humor, and an intimate connection between her and the audience. The people who had followed her career for decades were captivated once again by her voice, grittier, more emotive, and undeniably hers. However, the atmosphere changed as the sun rose and her crew headed towards Atlanta, their next destination on the tour. As the miles pile up in a musician's life on the road, the group rode in style in a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van. The trip's tragic ending was completely unexpected. Something catastrophic occurred on the highway just outside of Montgomery. The Sprinter van went off the road and landed on its side, unable to correct its course. Another tragedy befell the world before anybody could gather their thoughts. The overturned vehicle was plowed into by a massive Freightliner Cascadia semi-truck that didn't manage to brake in time. As the early morning stillness was broken by sirens and the wails of the wounded, the scene descended into anarchy, with metal bent and glass shattered. Rescue workers hurried to the scene, desperately trying to free those ensnared within. Due to first responders' struggles with both time and trauma, the whole section of road was closed. Stone was tragically declared deceased at the site. The terrible accident claimed her life along with everyone else's. Although her bandmates were hurt, some severely, they managed to survive. Many people, not only in the music industry, were shocked by Stone's death. Somewhere along the line, the world seems to have lost more than simply a voice. Many people saw Stone as more than just a vocalist. She fought bravely, spoke compelling stories, and proudly displayed her scars and triumphs. She had triumphed over personal tragedies, fought through industry politics, and risen from modest origins to continue shining brightly on stage. Themes of love, suffering, resilience, and salvation were echoed in her music. She sung lyrics that seemed lived, not composed. Candlelit vigils were conducted in her honor in cities where her music had an impact, and fans expressed their sorrow on social media. Artists, politicians, and regular people alike who felt heard and understood by her music sent tributes in droves. Many were shocked that she had disappeared. Her aura appeared ethereal, perhaps everlasting. To make matters worse, her last moments occurred under the overcast gray skies of a highway, away from the limelight and the audience, rather than the bright lights of a stage. Her death while doing what she loved, traveling to a new place to perform again, adds an extra layer of tragedy to the narrative. She had never cared about stardom or wealth. It all came down to the bond, the tunes, the key point. Tragically, her death also highlighted the dangers that musicians and their crews face while performing live. Real risks, such as lengthy periods on the road, tight timetables, and continual travel, sometimes go unrecognized by the general population. Tragedies can interrupt the flow of a tour at any second. Questions regarding trucking sector responsibility, vehicle conditions, and road safety surfaced as the crash investigation progressed. However, these details would never be enough to reunite her with her family, friends, and co-workers. All the same, Stone's impact endures. Her music is still playing in people's homes, vehicles, and during live performances. Awards and album sales are important, but the lives she touched, those who drew courage, hope, or healing from her music, tell her story even more. Not only will her legacy live on in musical annals, but she has also won the hearts of countless fans. The influence of her life and work will continue to spread, from city to city and soul to soul, even if her last trip ended on a peaceful Alabama highway. Now that Clive Davis has been seen in tears over Angie Stone, let's explore one of the things that Stone could hold Clive Davis responsible for. There was an intention for Oprah Winfrey's show about neo-soul to be a party, a huge spotlight on the exciting new musical movement that was combining soul, R&B, and politically engaged talent. It was a watershed event for many fans since the broadcast included the genre's most promising and popular voices. Not everyone, though, experienced the happiness on the backstage. Particularly noticeable was the absence of one voice, one that was highly esteemed. It was clear that the legendary Angie Stone, a vocalist with a voice that could move mountains and a career spanning decades, was not there. It wasn't just ordinary artist. Angie had been a pioneer in the neo-soul scene. Hits like Brother and No More Rain in This Cloud were not just popular, they were moving anthems that resonated with many people. With unfiltered honesty and enduring spirit, her songs conveyed tales of love, anguish, perseverance, and Black identity. Many people considered her a founding mother of the movement. For what reason, therefore, was she not included in this watershed event? Angie Stone later revealed something that made a lot of her followers very upset and startled. She said that Clive Davis, a titan in the music industry, had purposefully left her out of the incident. Stone claims that Davis felt she didn't belong in their portrayal, supposedly because to her weight. Angie felt let down on more than one level by this. It hurt like hell and was so private. Envision yourself sitting through a whole homage to a movement you were a part of, only to find out that your physical appearance, rather than your voice or ability, was the deciding factor in whether or not you were cast. The anguish is magnified when one has dedicated their entire being to their profession and has triumphed over obstacles as a Black woman in a very competitive and sometimes merciless field. The reason behind Stone's expulsion from the neo-soul celebration goes beyond a minor infraction. It exposes a more significant and concerning issue. It brings attention to the persistent problems with self-esteem, beauty standards, and gatekeeping that Black women encounter in the music industry. On many occasions, natural ability is insufficient. The industry has a bias toward favoring a specific look above genuine artistic expression. Disappointingly, Angie's dismissal is due not to a lack of skill, but to the fact that she does not adhere to rigid physical standards. Even though Angie Stone was not included in that memorial broadcast, her impact will be felt for years to come. She refused to let herself be silenced by rejection. She persisted instead in making music that would inspire and guide generations of musicians who looked up to her as a role model, since she sung the same songs they did and had the same voice. Her music continues to be played, loved, and listened to by people of all ages, demonstrating her enduring influence. Indirectly or directly, she became and remains a role model for a number of soul and R&B artists on the rise. It's tragic enough that the neo-soul genre was feted on Oprah, but the genre ended up reflecting the exact problems it had aimed to fight against. Authenticity, self-expression, and rejection of conventional wisdom were to be essential tenets of neo-soul. A backlash against pop and R&B's overly marketed and idealized image gave rise to it. The idea was to offer a platform to the underrepresented. Despite her groundbreaking work, this trailblazing musician was being disregarded only for her physical attributes rather than her artistic abilities. Many people saw Oprah's show as a jubilation of music and culture. The featured musicians were given a once-in-a-lifetime chance to perform on a big stage. However, It was a sobering reminder to Angie Stone that prejudices may persist even in places that aim to be different and better. For a long time, the music business has battled its fixation on appearance, especially as it pertains to women and black women in particular. Unrealistic, Eurocentric, or size-biased standards put an undue amount of pressure on people to be attractive and competent. It's a place where how you seem may dictate your chances, independent of your real talents or achievements. With Stone's background, the discussion takes on a more personal and nuanced quality. It's a reminder that no artist is an island. Behind the scenes, there are real people with emotions, aspirations, and at times, invisible scars. We are also prompted by her story to reevaluate our own standards of musical achievement and value. More important than outward beauty should be heartfelt narrative and genuine expression of feeling. Although Angie Stone was physically absent from that episode, her legacy lives on via her music and her narrative. Important voices aren't often the most obvious or audible at the time, but their echoes reverberate for a long time. Some are curious in Angie Stone's background because she was a celebrity before her untimely demise. What follows is a detailed account of Angie Stone's childhood. Stone, a little girl from the middle of Columbia, South Carolina, was known to the globe long before anybody else. She grew up in the South, where the basic yet strong rhythm of life had a profound impact, thanks to her parents, Iona Brown and Bobby Williams. Her mom, Iona, was a hospital technician who made sure everything ran well in the background of healthcare. Bobby, her father, was not a prominent lawyer, but he was an essential assistance to many. Even though their work didn't garner much attention, it laid a solid groundwork for their daughter's future. Stone was never famous for her childhood. First, she performed at her hometown's Little First Nazareth Baptist Church, a modest but warm sanctuary. There was more than meets the eye at this chapel. It radiated an uplifting attitude that could carry you far. The reverend and fervent leader at the front of the pack was Reverend Blakely N. Scott, whose moving sermons and genuine concern for his church touched the lives of those who heard them, and particularly the impressionable young Stone. When Stone was in that church, among all the applauding, dancing, and voices that seemed to go on forever, his own voice started to take form. Every week she sang gospel music, the type that had lessons about healing, hope, and history in every chord. Gospel wasn't only a musical style, it was a whole way of life, a spiritual current that shaped her most formative experiences. Bobby, her father, was an unassuming but steadfast influence on her musical career, going above and beyond mere support. His participation in a neighborhood gospel quartet ensured that Stone's exposure to gospel music extended beyond its Sunday church services. It permeated her home life as well. In the home and on the little stages where her father's band performed, the soothing, harmonizing sound of four voices harmonizing with one another resounded frequently. She's seen the power of music to unite people via her father's singing. However, Bobby continued. He wished for his daughter to do more than just listen to great music. He wanted her to feel its spirit and passion. After that, he started treating her to live concerts by legendary gospel groups. Picture a small girl, captivated by the awe-inspiring performances of groups like the Gospel Keynotes and the Singing Angels, standing in a full church or community hall. These weren't your average singers, they were living legends, capable of moving a whole audience to tears or joy with just one song. These excursions served as educational opportunities for Stone rather than just diversion. She saw these performers' mastery of their voices, their ability to captivate an audience, and the emotional impact of their lyrics. The song had deep significance and had the power to move the spirit. A desire to utilize her unique voice to evoke genuine emotions in others was subtly but surely seeded in her heart by all of this. These formative encounters were not glitzy or spectacular. Neither large arenas nor dazzling lighting were present. There were just intimate churches, committed choirs, and the distinctive gospel sound that led her. The resilience and genuineness that allowed her to make a name for herself in the music industry came from her strong, modest, and deeply rooted origins. When Stone was a little girl, She lived in a world where the holy and the mundane coexisted. She learned that a life of passion and duty could coexist from witnessing her parents' selfless care for the ill and their commitment to their jobs and gospel music. All the while, her devotion to music deepened, not because she was coerced into it, but because it permeated her life and shaped her identity. In hindsight, it's easy to see that her childhood in Colombia was about more than simply geography. It was a context that fostered her abilities, boosted her morale, and set her up for success. With the gentle reverberations of church choirs and her parents' loving encouragement, Stone's voice started to blossom, setting her on a path that would eventually lead her far from her birthplace, yet never far from her origins. Can you tell me about Angie Stone's relationships? Was a family she ever had? Could you tell me about her major personal challenges? The private life of Angie Stone deserves our attention. A mother and grandmother with a narrative full of ups and downs, Stone took great pride in her family. Her offspring include a boy named Michael and a daughter called Diamond. Diamond, who was born in 1984, is the offspring of Stone and Rodney Stone, better known by his stage name Lil Rodney C., together with Funky 4+1, a hip-hop group. Diamond has made a name for herself in the music industry over the years. She graced Stone's 2007 smash single Baby with her backing vocals. Stone received her first grandchild in 2008, and 4 years later, in July 2012, she welcomed her second. In addition to the musical connections in her family, Stone had her own share of partnerships and love affairs. Among them, her hookup with neo-soul artist D'Angelo in the 90s stands out. Michael D'Angelo Archer II was born to them in 1998 as a result of their romance. This was a watershed moment in Stone's life, one that enriched her motherhood role and offered her much joy. Stone and her children, Michael and Diamond, spent much of their childhood in Atlanta, Georgia. She went through the ups and downs of motherhood, including rocky patches in her relationship with Diamond. News broke in March 2015 that Stone's daughter was involved in an incident that led to her incarceration. Considering how much her community adored her, this was a stunning turn of events. Although Stone's private life was not without its share of scandals, the most important part of her narrative was her struggle with health. A condition that impacts millions of people throughout the globe, Stone was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 1999. After receiving her diagnosis, she realized how serious her disease was and made great strides in learning about and controlling it. In this struggle, she had allies. Together, she and actor-comedian Anthony Anderson became members of the Eli Lilly and Company-sponsored FACE, Diabetes, Fearless African Americans Connected and Empowered program. African Americans were the target audience for this campaign, which sought to inform them of their diabetes risk and available resources to help them manage their condition. Stone's dedication to spreading the word about diabetes stems from her own experience with the disease in her family. She spoke about how her aunt and mother had both battled diabetes, which further strengthened her resolve to fight for improved diabetes research and treatment. Stone was able to inspire people with her tale of perseverance and connect with others going through similar situations through the program. Stone lived through the highs and lows of the entertainment world, battling both the fame and the personal demons that accompanied it. Her story exemplifies how celebrity and fortune cannot protect us from the challenges that life always brings. No matter the challenge, family constraints, health problems, or embarrassing public moments, Stone has shown time and again that triumph over adversity is possible. She has been through the ups and downs of being a public figure, from the joys of seeing her children become adults to the difficulties of maintaining a healthy relationship with D'Angelo and her career in music. Additionally, it demonstrates that everyone has struggles, even the seemingly perfect. Despite everything that has happened, Stone is still a prominent person in the music industry, a parent, and an advocate for people with diabetes. A compelling lesson of tenacity emerges from her life story, which is replete with ups and downs, but ultimately culminates in triumph. What year was Angie Stone's career launched? At what point did she become famous? Her professional path, how did it go? we will discover. Forming the rap group. The sequence in the late 1970s, Stone set off on a historic career in the music industry at the tender age of 16. Cheryl the Pearl Cook, Gwendolyn Blondie Chisholm, and the rest of this female hip-hop ensemble became famous very fast. Backstage at a Sugar Hill Gang event in South Carolina was the critical audition that led to their signing with the renowned Sugar Hill Records, making them the second rap group in history to do so. Their meteoric climb to fame in hip-hop's formative years began when manager Sylvia Robinson saw their talent and signed them to the label. Stone was resolute in her pursuit of musical independence when her tenure with Sugar Hill Records ended, and she began performing as a solo artist. She continued to write songs and pay for her own studio time, unfazed by the obstacles. Gordon Mack III, a studio engineer, saw her hard work and introduced her to Willie Bruno Jr. and David Bright, two artists she had been admiring. She was able to develop her skills as a musician and songwriter thanks to their invitation to cooperate after they were struck by her creative abilities. The decade of the 1990s saw yet another thrilling shift in Stone's career. Peter Edge, the 8ANDR manager at Arista Records, saw her potential and introduced her to the renowned Clive Davis. Davis presented her with a solo recording deal with the company after listening to her music. Black Diamond, Stone's debut solo album, was released in September 1999 to much anticipation. This album showcased her unique sound and creative vision, marking a turning point in her career. Though Stone accomplished much in the music business, he faced several obstacles along the way. After Unexpected and Rich Girl failed to impress listeners in 2006, she started to question her musical career trajectory. She considered quitting her job after being let down by these releases. Producer Walter Millsap III, nevertheless, gave her the push she needed to rediscover her passion. She rekindled her love for music with the support of Millsap, former members of The Clutch, Candace Nelson, Balewa Muhammad, and other collaborators, Teak Underdew, The Heavyweights, etc., on new compositions. Stone made her reality TV debut in 2006 on VH1's Celebrity Fit Club, which was in its fourth season at the time. Beginning broadcasting on August 6th, this season witnessed Stone lose 18 pounds, which was not only one of the lowest weight drops in the show's history, but also a testament to her strength and will to prioritize her health. Additionally, that year marked a turning point in her career when she inked a deal with the relaunched Stax Records, a label deeply associated with R&B and soul music. Next year, in 2021, Stone was honored at the Black Music Honors with the esteemed Soul Music Icon Award. With this accolade, she was able to cement her position in soul and R&B history and recognize her immense musical accomplishments. Stone co-starred in the romantic comedy Entanglement that same year, marking her acting comeback. The video, which showcased her acting and singing abilities, was published on Amazon Prime Video and was directed by Damon Jamal. The musical voyage of Stone continued unabated despite obstacles. Love Language, her 11th and last solo effort, was released in May 2023 by Conjunction and Sono Recordings. Critics lauded the album for showcasing Stone's vocal development. Her voice had gained a little more grain over the years, lending an emotional depth to her performances, even if the album failed to make a big splash on the charts. She performed the role of the protagonist's mother in the Urban Flicks TV series Ho Phase, which she landed in the same year. Her ability to move fluidly between cinema and music was on full display in this part, which boosted her acting resume. Stone's impact on the music industry persisted and even flourished. In 2023, Stone gained fame as a featured vocalist on Damon Little's popular single No Stressing. By early 2024, the song had risen to the top of the U.S. Gospel Airplay chart, becoming Stone's first consecutive #1 in this genre. She proved her flexibility and sustained industry importance with the success of the song. The Women's Songwriters Hall of Fame inducted Stone in June 2024, further honoring her exceptional career and showcasing her enduring influence and contributions to the music business. At the Boole in Indianapolis, Indiana in July 2024, she was also initiated into the Zeta Phi Beta sorority, a group that honored her for her music, activism, and dedication to empowering women and girls. Throughout her remarkable career in music and entertainment, Stone has achieved remarkable success. From her breakthrough days in the Sequence to her solo work, acting endeavors, and ongoing musical triumphs. She is an icon in every sense of the term because her narrative exemplifies tenacity, flexibility, and a relentless commitment to her art. Angie Stone's death and its connection to Clive Davis remain shrouded in mystery. Just what is going on here? We will discover. The terrible death of Angie Stone is a mystery that is quickly gathering attention, and horrifying information about her last moments have been exposed in recently released government documents. According to these papers, the renowned music entrepreneur Clive Davis may have had a chilling role in her tragic demise. People have blamed Davis for the demise of black musicians, particularly those who spoke out against the financial methods of the business, for a long time. Angie Stone loved what she did for a living, and she worked tirelessly to make her job a success. Even though she gave her all to the music industry, she still felt taken advantage of, particularly by Clive Davis. She gradually came to terms with the fact that Davis had been financially and emotionally abusing her. Things took a surprising turn when she mustered up the nerve to send him a letter asking to be released from her contract. Davis surprisingly consented to release her, albeit the ease with which it transpired was disturbing. It seemed like someone was trying to force Angie out of the business behind her back, and her gut told her something wasn't right. It was Angie's generosity and eagerness to help others, including landing D'Angelo a job at J Records, that ultimately led to her demise. Little did she know that plans were already in action to have her removed from her position behind her back. Without Angie's knowledge, D'Angelo's manager struck a deal with J Records to put her on the back burner. The realization that D'Angelo's success was a price she had to pay for her own professional advancement hit her like a ton of bricks. Davis gradually but surely began to take measures to ensure that Angie would leave. She cut her music budget in half, she was subjected to constant body shaming, and finally, Davis instructed her to rename her album from Diary of a Soul Sister to something else entirely, because Alicia Keys was working on a similar project. All of this was planned to get Angie out of there, so it wasn't a coincidence. As time went on, it became more apparent that Clive Davis and the powerful at Universal Music Group, UMG, were trying to take over her royalties and steal her money. Because she was required to remain silent by a gag order, Angie was never known to have penned some of the biggest singles for huge performers. Nobody gave her the credit she earned. She was used and taken advantage of. Angie had to keep touring right up until she died because she couldn't afford to stop, even though she made millions during her career. After she came dangerously close to death in November 2023 from an unknown sickness, she finally started to piece things together. Angie found out that someone had stolen her mechanicals and publication payments, and that a lot of her tunes weren't even registered correctly. The people in charge of her career knew what they were doing, and it was theft on purpose. During the months preceding her demise, Angie gathered a group of attorneys to assist her in recovering her inheritance. However, Angie addressed Clive Davis about her missing royalties just days before her unfortunate death, and the timing of this meeting raises significant concerns. Was there anything more nefarious at play here, or was her death really an accident? Angie had voiced worries about her safety the morning before she passed away, according to a close friend of hers. But the business world wasted little time in trying to hide the reality, claiming the incident was no more than a typical traffic accident. In light of recent revelations and trends in the mysterious deaths of black musicians in the business, many now suspect that Angie's demise was not an accident. The industry's repeated attempts to downplay the fatalities as accidents or suicides are becoming cliché, but the proof keeps piling up. Many are wondering if Clive Davis will ever face consequences for his alleged role in these terrible events, and they are seeking justice for Angie Stone and others like her. Was Angie Stone's last phone contact to Clive Davis a pivotal moment in the conspiracy that ultimately led to her tragic death? The inquiry into her death is ongoing. What happens next is anybody's guess. So, how did you feel about Angie Stone's death and Clive Davis's treatment of her? Post a comment with your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it.